If you've ever seen a baby giraffe being born, you know it's a pretty chaotic scene. The mother gives birth standing up, which means the newborn drops about 6 feet to the ground. But within an hour, that baby giraffe is standing on its own 4 legs. Within a few hours, it can run fast enough to outpace a predator. Now, let's compare that to a human baby. A human baby drops into this world and is essentially a crying, sleeping potato for the first 6 months of its life. It can't walk, it can't feed itself, and it can barely hold its own head up. If you put a human newborn in the wild, it wouldn't last a single night. So, why are human babies so spectacularly useless? From an evolutionary standpoint, it seems like a massive design flaw. We are the apex predators of this planet, the most advanced species to ever exist, yet we spend the first year of our lives completely helpless. To understand why, we have to look back millions of years at the 2 greatest evolutionary trade-offs in human history: walking upright and having big brains. Let's start with walking on 2 legs, also known as bipedalism. Around 4 to 6 million years ago, our ancestors came down from the trees and started walking across the African savanna. This was a game changer. It freed up our hands to use tools, carry food, and hold babies. But walking upright required a major redesign of the mammalian skeleton, specifically the pelvis. To support the weight of our upper bodies and allow for efficient walking, the human pelvis had to become narrower and more basin-shaped. This structural change was great for our mobility, but it created a severe bottleneck, literally. The birth canal became much narrower. At the exact same time in our evolutionary history, our brains were rapidly expanding. Early hominid brains were about the size of a chimpanzee's, but over millions of years, they tripled in volume. This big brain is what gave us language, complex problem-solving, and the ability to dominate the planet. So, here's the evolutionary conflict. We evolved an increasingly narrow birth canal and an increasingly large baby head. Biologists call this the obstetrical dilemma. If a human baby stayed in the womb until its brain was fully developed, like a baby horse or giraffe, its head would be too large to pass through the mother's pelvis. Both the mother and the baby would die during childbirth. To solve this fatal problem, evolution came up with a radical compromise. Human babies are born early, very early. In fact, some anthropologists argue that the first 3 months of a human baby's life should be considered the 4th trimester of pregnancy. When a human baby is born, its brain is only about 25% of its adult size. Compare that to a chimpanzee, whose brain is nearly 50% of its adult size at birth. We are born prematurely by the standards of other primates so that our oversized heads can safely navigate the birth canal. This brings me to my first question for you. Have you ever noticed how a newborn baby seems to just want to be held constantly, almost as if they realize they're not fully cooked yet? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on whether that 4th trimester theory rings true for any parents watching. Because human babies are born with such underdeveloped brains, they lack the basic motor skills and instincts that other animals possess from day one. A baby sea turtle hatches and immediately knows to scurry toward the ocean. A human baby can't even figure out how to roll over. But this extreme helplessness is not a bug, it's a feature. In fact, it is the secret to human intelligence. If you are born with a fully developed brain, your neural pathways are mostly hardwired. You have strong instincts, but you lack flexibility. A baby horse knows how to run, but it's never going to learn how to build a fire or solve a math equation. Because the human brain does 75% of its growing outside the womb, it is incredibly plastic. It develops in response to the environment. Our brains literally wire themselves based on what we see, hear, and experience in our first few years of life. We aren't born with the instinct to survive in the wild because we aren't meant to survive in the wild. We are meant to survive in human culture. This extended period of helplessness forces us to learn from the people around us. It is the foundation of human social bonding. Because human babies require so much care, parents and extended families had to work together to raise them. Early humans formed complex social groups, divided labor, and communicated more effectively just to keep their vulnerable infants alive. In a weird way, the uselessness of our babies is what forced us to become civilized. We had to invent tools, build shelters, and create language because our offspring were too fragile to survive without a highly cooperative society. Think about the sheer amount of energy it takes to raise a human child. For the first several years, they are a pure drain on resources. They consume food, require constant protection, and contribute absolutely nothing to the group's survival. If you find this evolutionary history fascinating, drop a like on this video. It really helps the channel out, and it proves that our big, complex brains still appreciate a good story. So, why did natural selection allow such a resource-heavy strategy to persist? Because the payoff is enormous. Yes, a human child is useless for the first decade of its life. But by the time that child reaches adulthood, they have the cognitive ability to invent agriculture, write literature, and split the atom. Our extreme helplessness at birth is the price we pay for our extreme intelligence as adults. Furthermore, this extended childhood allows for the transmission of culture. Animals with short childhoods rely on genetics to pass down survival information. Humans rely on teaching. We have to teach our children how to speak, how to behave, and how to understand the world. This means that every generation doesn't have to start from scratch. We build on the knowledge of our ancestors. This cultural transmission is why humans have been able to adapt to almost every environment on Earth, from the freezing Arctic to the scorching Sahara. We don't evolve new physical traits to survive in the cold. We teach our children how to make coats. This unique evolutionary path also changes the way we view childhood. In the animal kingdom, childhood is a brief, dangerous period that needs to be gotten over with as quickly as possible. For humans, childhood is a protected, sacred time dedicated entirely to learning and brain development. The fact that we can afford to have such useless babies is a testament to how successful we are as a species. We have created environments so safe and resources so abundant that we can afford to dedicate years to raising a single child. If you love exploring the strange biology and hidden history behind human behavior, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into the fascinating reasons why we are the way we are, and you won't want to miss what's next. So the next time you look at a baby and wonder why they can't do anything for themselves, remember that you are looking at an evolutionary masterpiece. Their helplessness isn't a weakness. It is the blank canvas upon which human intelligence is painted. They aren't useless. They are just downloading the software required to run the most complex piece of hardware in the known universe, the human brain. And until that download is complete, they're just going to need a lot of naps, a lot of milk, and a lot of patience. Let me know in the comments what you think the most surprising part of human evolution is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.